The situation in Venezuela has become critical. Violence has spread throughout Caracas. Food and other basic essentials are in shortage. The people are fed up and are reacting in anger. These are Venezuela's dark days. You came here for the truth. This was an amazing, simple, and yet detailed article out of Reuters. It breaks down simply what's happening, giving you a basic understanding of the situation. I want to read it for you. So if you will, please let me share this with you now. Venezuela's dark days. Venezuela's fortunes rise and fall with the price of oil, and when crude prices tanked in 2014, its economy was thrown into chaos. A government that had relied on oil revenues to fund the social spending suddenly came up short of hard currency for imports, causing shortages of every kind. Nicolas Maduro's government struggles to contain the crisis. Hundreds of thousands of people have taken to the streets to protest his government. So let me scroll through these here. I don't want to cover every single word of this article, but let me just cover the points. You can see this really good infographic. Oil dependence. Venezuela has been heavily reliant on oil for around a century. When Hugo Chavez came to power in 1999, the OPEC nation obtained around 80% of its export revenue from what one former oil minister once called the devil's excrement. Now some 94% of export revenue comes from oil. Clearly very important to Venezuela. Since the price has been subdued from its peak, you have seen the turmoil there. That is a fact. A nation of inflation. The government has not published inflation data for more than a year. However, annual rates are well into the triple digits and are expected to soar higher. You can see the chart on the left-hand side. That's the oil price, US dollar per barrel, coming down from 2008. You had it about 150, then there was a decline. It came back up, and you can see that it was around this mark of over $110 a barrel right when Maduro takes office. Now, ever since that moment, they've had even more problems. And having the price of oil take a dive certainly hasn't helped. You could see the inflation numbers on the right-hand chart. Clearly, very clear that it has spiked into astronomical levels. That brings me into my next point. If I scroll down even further, we're looking at this. This is their currency. So there are different exchange rates and it gets a little messy. I don't want to cover everything. Let me just see what I can point out very quickly. Venezuela's currently has two official exchange rates, but both of them overvalue the bolivar, leading to the formation of a black market rate. And this is what the people from Venezuela have told me, that this is actually a fact. This is not some mainstream propaganda. The Maduro government has responded to inflation by printing higher denomination bills. However, these are scarce, and the largest value note, the 20,000 bolivar bill, is worth less than $4 on the black market. The most common note, the 100 bolivar bill, is worth a meager 2 cents. So what we're looking at here is the devaluation of the currency. By far, there is very little value left in these, and unfortunately there will be a point in the near future where they become no different than the Zimbabwe dollars. Look at this. Varying prices. You can see on the left-hand side the exchange rate here in the black market being so different from the other exchange rates. It's extreme the way that it is, but people have to go to the black market to buy some things. When they get desperate, what can they do? The only unfortunate part is that as time goes on, that black market pricing is actually pushing them. They become out of their league. The supply of the currency has expanded dramatically. You'll see that with the chart on the right. Is it Maduro's fault? I don't necessarily think it's all based on Maduro, but ever since he's come in, he's definitely hasn't made anything better. At least that's the way it looks to me as an outsider. On the black market, the Bolivar currency has fallen well over 99%, not bad, against the dollar since President Maduro was elected in 2013 after Hugo Chavez's death. That means that $1,000 saved in the local currency would now be worth less than $5. Additionally, the country's money supply, the sum of cash together with checking, savings, and other deposits, is up 230% in the last year, the fastest rise since the records began in 1940. And the United States money supply was up 6% in that same time. Look at what's happening there right now. As you can see, the devaluation of the currency. So I ask you, as an individual, do you think that those in Venezuela should keep their money in cash? Well, the fact is that they should not. Now, some of the people who have some money, not necessarily the richest of the rich people, but those few in the middle class, had they been able to purchase any form of asset, maybe a piece of land, maybe a cheap house here or there, a little fixer-upper, they may have had options. If they had a little bit of cash on hand, those assets have appreciated dramatically. Now, they may not be worth any more, and the city may be going to rubble at this point, but it doesn't matter for them because they've been able to maintain their value. Things have gone up in price because the currency has been devalued. So the same thing applies elsewhere. I've used this as an example consistently because it is the crystal ball for the rest of the world. Let's go here as you look at this, price points. I thought this was interesting because it compared real world things like 1 kilo of avocados, and you can see that it is excessively expensive, truly. And you can see that right here. Look at the 750 mils of juice, 1 kilo of onions. I mean, everything is costing a lot when you measure it in their currency. Here is a look at the cost of some of the basic goods in Venezuela at the various exchange rates. Prices were recorded from a supermarket in the affluent district here in Caracas, May 2017. So when you compare the different currencies, though, you get a very different picture. I thought that was funny, the way that it all works. Rising and falling. Many prices are disparagingly equated to units of the monthly minimum wage in Venezuela. This meal cost 6 monthly minimum wages, people will say. Think about that. President Maduro has raised wages 15 times since he took office, calling it a world record. However, in dollar terms, the minimum wage has fallen significantly. Does that surprise you? Well, I'm sure it doesn't. Doesn't surprise me either. That's why I think that the hiking of the minimum wage is very silly, as it happens in the US and Canada and other places. They want to bring the wage to $15, for example. They'll do so, but that's not enough. So then they'll go to 20, and that's not enough, and they'll go to 25. And meanwhile, people are getting hurt more and more and more. It doesn't help. This is what you do to try to keep yourself in office. And you'll have supporters saying, look, hey, He's doing what he can. It's those people over there. They're the ones who are bad. Anyway, you measure it in dollars. You can see that it has gone up significantly. The Bolivar versus the dollars. Sorry, that was measured in bolivars. Look at it in dollars. You can see that it has been devalued significantly. You can see that difference there. When you look at it in bolivars, clearly this money supply has expanded even faster than that in the United States. So this currency will be destroyed and the people will be hurt significantly. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. That is just a fact. You can see on the left-hand side the protests that have taken place against the military and the police. Then in the middle you have the stores that are being looted. On the right-hand side you have those mothers with their children trying to get things like diapers and everything else. They'll be waiting for hours and hours on end, and they can hope that they'll get what they need. Unfortunately, many of the people in the lineups don't get what they need. With the greatest oil riches in the world, Venezuela's people seek food in rubbish. The elderly faint in lines to seek food and medicines. It's as if we are victims of a curse. That is the president of Venezuela's National Assembly. You don't know what's really going on there. You don't know what's just propaganda coming from either side. But we know the situation's really bad. It's getting much worse. And that doesn't really surprise me for a second. Whenever a country is able to get hold of their basically the whole situation, when they take control, totalitarian systems, okay? Whatever you want to call them, socialism or anything else. I don't like to give them names. Totalitarian, let's go with that. And this here is maximum control. That's what it is. They take control of everything. Everything. There's a problem with the water supply. Okay, the government takes over the water supply. There's a problem with the internet. Okay, the government tries to take over the internet. They just want to take control over everything. They're like a virus. They're like a cancer, consuming the host and ultimately killing it. And that's what happens. But that's all the government knows how to do, is take more and more and more and more. And a very few select people get away with it. But the majority of people end up getting screwed over. That's it for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. I really thought it was so important just to cover this one video and one article here, and I hope that you enjoyed the infographics, the charts, and everything else. I'll end it right there. If you want to know more about this, then you have to be a subscriber on this YouTube channel. It's very important. We are over 50,000 subscribers on the channel. The channel continues to grow. I cover news from all over the world. This is not a US focused or Canada focused channel. I've got news from all over the world. I've got literally all the different countries around the world. If I haven't gotten to them yet, I will. I assure you, I'm going to bring out more and more and more videos, try to bring this and make this a global show, because I know there's so many people in different countries that are just dying for some information. Well, lo and behold, you will find it here. So check this out at either on YouTube or themoneygps.com. I'll see you soon.